This story begins in South Africa, in a prison where escaping was completely impossible. But a small group of prisoners made a unique plan. They didn't break any walls or dig any tunnels. Instead, they escaped in broad daylight, right in front of everyone's eyes. This story starts in South Africa, where a man named Tim was walking. He was carrying 2 heavy bags. He placed one bag near a trash can and left the other near a car. Then he signaled his partner, Stephen. Stephen pressed a button, and the bags exploded with a small blast. These blasts weren't meant to hurt anyone. They were to spread papers across the market. The papers had revolutionary slogans against the government. After the blast, Tim and Stephen tried to run, but a police team spotted them. Both were arrested and sent to prison. That evening, Tim's wife came to visit him. She secretly gave him some money. He might need it in prison. The next day, Tim and Stephen were taken to court. The judge sentenced Tim to 12 years and Stephen to 8 years because Tim set off 2 blasts in the market and Stephen supported him every step of the way. After this, both were sent to Pretoria Prison, the most dangerous prison in all of South Africa. When they arrived, a warden named Milo welcomed them. He explained all the prison rules. Tim saw automatic doors, countless locks, and guards armed with guns. He realized he would spend his whole life here. Then both reached their cells. The sight took their breath away. Each cell had not 1 but 2 doors, and both doors had heavy locks on them. The next morning, Tim was having breakfast. He met a prisoner named Dennis Goldberg. Stephen also joined them. The 3 started talking. Another prisoner named Leo was quietly listening. After breakfast, Dennis showed them a map of the prison. He gave them complete information about every corner. Dennis said the prison walls are 32 feet high and there's a guard on top of every wall. The prison is surrounded by bright lights and barbed wire fences everywhere. In short, escaping this prison is impossible. But after Dennis left, Leo came to them. He said escaping this prison is possible. Leo said, "I will help you escape. But in return, you must include me in your plan." Tim agreed and gave Leo the money his wife gave him. In just 23 days, Tim and Stephen had adjusted to prison life. One night, Tim lit a match. He looked at the keyhole in his cell door, then he measured the keyhole's length using a piece of paper. For many days, Tim kept thinking about this. Finally, he decided to make 2 wooden keys. The next morning, he told Stephen and Leo his plan. He said he would steal a piece of wood from the workshop, but first, he needed to study the keys carefully. During lunch, Leo distracted everyone. When the warden went to the restroom, Tim carefully observed the keys. For many days, Tim stared at those keys, so every detail would fit in his mind. After days of hard work, Tim drew the key designs on paper. On the 74th day, he stole a piece of wood and sandpaper from the workshop. He hid them in his coffee mug and covered it with cloth. Then he walked out of the workshop. The warden searched everyone. Luckily, he found nothing in Tim's mug and let him go. Tim reached his cell and got straight to work. He started carving the wood. After hours of effort, his keys were ready. Nervously, he inserted the first key. After some effort, the first door of his cell opened. He moved forward. But seeing the second door, he was completely disappointed, because this door could only be unlocked from the outside. The next morning, he told his friends everything. He said, "We need to find a way to use the key from outside." In no time, 100 days passed. Tim and his friends were assigned to clean the prison corridors. Seeing the opportunity, Tim decided to try the key. After some effort, he opened this door too. But unfortunately, when he tried to close the gate, the key broke inside. Tim and his friends panicked and tried to remove the broken key. Leo gave Tim a small knife. Tim removed the broken key. But just then, a guard arrived. They had to leave. After the guard left, Tim tried to push the lock inside, but it didn't work. That evening, when all prisoners returned to their cells, the warden came on his rounds. He saw Tim's cell door was open, but he didn't pay much attention. He locked the gate and walked away. Seeing this, Tim felt relieved and finally breathed easy. On the 142nd day, the three gathered in Tim's room. They started working on a way to open the gate from inside. Meanwhile, Leo's eyes fell on a broom. An idea struck him. He took the broom outside and measured the distance from the window to the door. But the broom fell a few centimeters short. Just then, the warden arrived. Seeing the three talking, he became suspicious. The next day, when Tim was in the workshop, his eyes fell on a machine. A light bulb went off in his head. He fitted the same mechanism into his broom. That night, he attached his key to the broom. He stuck it out the window to try to open the door. After some struggle, he opened the door. But when he pulled the key out, it fell down. Tim panicked. But then he gathered courage and used chewing gum to pull the key back in. The next morning, Tim shared the good news with his friends. The three began planning their next move. That night, Tim opened both doors of his cell. He reached the front gate and measured its key too. Days passed like this. After about 6 months of hard work, Tim had made keys for all the doors on his floor. One night, he and Leo stepped out of their cell. They went down to the lower floor. They chose this night because the fat guard was on duty. Although this guard was very lazy, both were sweating with fear. When they were measuring the door's key, the guard started his rounds. Hearing his footsteps, both panicked and quickly hid in the storeroom. After the guard left, they came out and got back to work. But shortly after, Stephen started coughing loudly. This meant the fat guard had completed his round, so Tim and Leo quickly hid in the storeroom again. When the guard passed, they returned to their cells. After this, Tim broke the keys and hid them in a cup. Then he looked at his wife's photo and fell asleep. After working all night, Tim slept late the next morning, so the warden himself came to his cell. Since the warden already suspected Tim, he searched the cell. During the search, the cup fell, inside which Tim had hidden his keys. When the warden asked, Tim said these pieces are actually a photo stand, and I keep my wife's photo on them. The warden didn't pay much attention and believed Tim's lie. He walked away. By now, Tim understood that keeping the keys with him was dangerous. So the next day, he hid the key parts in different places around the prison. In no time, more than 13 months passed in this prison. By now, Tim had made a total of 49 keys. On Christmas Day, everyone gathered in Dennis's room. They told Dennis and his friends about their plan. Dennis refused to join because where would he go after escaping? He had no family or friends outside, but he told Tim, "I may not escape, but I will definitely help you." That evening, Tim gave Stephen and Leo the prison map. The three decided they would escape tomorrow afternoon because security is lowest at that time. But the next morning, the warden searched all the cells again. Luckily, he found nothing this time either. At noon, when all the guards went for lunch, the three stepped out of their cells. Tim asked Dennis one last time to come with them, but as always, Dennis refused. He wished them all the best and told them to go. After this, the three moved forward. They collected all their keys from different parts of the prison. Then they put on civilian clothes, opened all the doors on the first floor, and came down. But before they could open the ground floor door, the fat guard returned to his duty. Seeing this, the three quickly hid in the storeroom. They held the door and sat down. Tim was so scared that both he and the door were shaking. The fat guard noticed the door shaking. He became suspicious that someone might be behind it. But before he could enter the storeroom, Dennis broke the bulb in his room, causing a short circuit. Then all the prisoners started shouting loudly. This distracted the guard, and he went upstairs. As soon as the guard left, the three came out of the storeroom. They opened the first gate and moved ahead, and then they reached an electric gate. Its button was in the guard's room. If they tried to force it open, an alarm would go off throughout the prison. Here, Leo showed some bravery. He quickly went to the guard's room and pressed the button. The automatic gate opened, and the three reached the final gate of the prison. Tim started inserting his keys one by one, but despite all his effort, none of his keys fit this gate. Tim panicked and asked everyone to turn back, so they could make a key for this gate and try again tomorrow. But Leo told him, "Even if I die today, I am not going back." Then he carefully examined the lock. He realized the lock was fitted inside a piece of wood, and the wood was hollow from the inside. So Leo decided to break the lock and started hitting it with his knife. Hearing this noise, Tim's soul almost left his body. He ran inside to keep an eye on the guard. Luckily, the guard hadn't heard the noise yet. Meanwhile, Leo hammered the wood and made a hole inside it. After some powerful strikes, the lock finally broke. The three couldn't believe their eyes. Overjoyed, they hugged each other. Then they changed their clothes and walked out of the gate with great confidence. A guard on the wall was about to spot them when Tim stopped them, and they all hid behind a wall. Tim took out a small mirror from his pocket and watched the guard. As soon as the guard turned around, the three quickly walked out the main gate. On the way, they passed some prison guards. But they couldn't recognize the three. They even slipped past the warden's eyes. Then the three quickly reached the taxi stand, booked a taxi, and left the city. The next morning, when the warden learned that Tim, Leo, and Stephen had escaped, he was shocked. He feared he would lose his job because 3 prisoners had escaped right under his nose in broad daylight. The other prisoners laughed at the warden's helplessness because their friends had done what no one had ever imagined. After many days of effort, Tim, Leo, and Stephen crossed the South African border. They reached London and started a new life. At the end of the movie, we see that South African police launched a massive manhunt. But these 3 were never caught, and so 3 genius prisoners successfully escaped from South Africa's most dangerous prison.